Welcome to 2026. I hope you had a good time out and a wonderful start in the new year. Before I jump into the project plans, I thought I'd give you a quick review of how my December was during the break. My official kick-off of the holiday season is our bake-a-thon, where we bake cookies and bring them with us when we visit families. It is the same recipe that my grandmother used to use. However, over the years, we adapted to the needs of our family members. The kids did some whimsical crafts. This year, we also visited quite some concerts, some plays, and even a circus. Besides all the fun stuff, I did a lot of cleanup and sorting out and removing of things that were not useful anymore. But I did manage to finish this pair of mittens. Before we knew, kids were already restarting school and we were back to everyday life. It felt good to have done a little bit of cleanup and to have a fresh start for the new year. All that was left is just to bring the objects that I wanted to give away to a thrift store. It was a great opportunity to use my Margarete mittens for the first time. It was 6th of January and my favorite thrift store still closed. So I went on to go to the one I visit each week anyways when I bring my daughter to volleyball class. And of course, like every time, I have a little look around. I hope that the sound of these rattles would be a little more full. Should you ever want to find a fondue set, don't even bother to buy them new, because in every thrift store in Switzerland you would probably be able to find a set. I didn't buy anything, however I was thinking about this lampshade as a replacement for a lamp that I have. But now let's move on to the plans that I have for the next few weeks or even month, who knows. Most of these plans involve, of course, some type of thread or fabric, even if it's just in a visual way. These paper clips are from newspapers and fashion magazines from around 1900. I already made a selection that I felt curious about or that made me laugh. Usually these are riddles, everyday fashion or fashion from women doing sports, advertisements, but also traces of everyday life. Historically, these elements of history were difficult to find because no one really bothered to document them. So I'm always glad if I find poetry from everyday life, things like kids' drawings or tools. I hope to make a little collage out of these clips. What I like about this lamp is that the lampshade is like a cylinder. However, I wished it was not so red. I found a few inspiration pictures. At this point, I'm not sure if I'm able to make a lampshade myself or if I find a second-hand one. However, what I could do was a quick fix of another lamp. And now let's move on to some knit projects. As you might be able to hear, I'm really excited about summer coming up in about 5 months. Plan here is to make a little poncho. Last year I pattern hacked this dress. It's a beautiful dress with old fabric. However, the fabric is so see-through that I barely managed to wear it. So I thought I use this fabric to experiment with some shirring and some smocking. Also curious how this technique turns out with the striped fabric, and with this green fabric the floral pattern is just too tiny for me, and I hope the shirring might transform this. I have some more yarns in my stash that I really appreciate. A lot of it is from Save the Yarn. I hope to make 2 sabai tops. I hope the yarn works if I combine it with another one to hold it together. January can feel a little moody and a little heavy, so there are 2 more projects that might fit that category better. For a long time I had these little carpets, these little rugs in my cellar, in my stash, and I wanted to make something with it. I didn't know what. And then I saw on Pinterest some inspiration pictures with some people wearing the rugs as clutches or bags, and I wanted to give it a go and try to make some. The biggest challenge will be how to make it stiff enough so it doesn't lose its shape. It would be nice if I managed to have a clean finish and a polished look for a night out. And the last project I'm gonna talk about is also made from fabric from stash. So this would be the cross back apron. In this video I really try to only make plans with fabrics and yarns that I already had in stash, because I really don't like the feeling of having all these materials laying around not being used. Sometimes it takes a little more effort for me to actually be motivated and making myself looking forward to do new projects with the same old fabric or yarns that I've already had in a box stored away. So the challenge really is to find a project where the material really works well with it, and to make a project that convinces me. Some items that I was gifted, I used a little bit, but I might not use so much in the future because they don't serve me. I prefer taking notes with separate sheets and not in a booklet because it's difficult for me to keep track of it. And others that I thrifted are really useful, like this Pomodoro. I use it all the time with the Pomodoro method to get me motivated and to keep going. There are other projects that I thought about or put a note down or I'm curious to make. However, they have to wait for a little longer. I store them on my pinboard so I can see them and revisit so I don't forget anything. I usually don't make a lot of New Year's resolutions, but if you have some, feel free to put them in the comments below as affirmations, so to say. And I hope the stars line up for you and they come true. Blackbird singing in a dead of night. Take these broken wings and land of light.